Welcome to this powerful series on energy management. I'm Whitney Fallon, holistic wellness practitioner and neurodivergent entrepreneur advocate. I help high achievers break free from burnout and align their energy with their divine blueprint. And in this series, I am joined by Malachi and Carissa Roundtree, a powerhouse couple dedicated to helping entrepreneurs break through their biggest barriers. Today, we're diving into how burnout is like a financial bankruptcy and why managing your energy is the key to long-term success. All right. Well, thank you. Welcome, Malachi and Carissa. I'm so excited you guys are here and super excited to be talking about this burnout is like financial bankruptcy topic. So I just kind of want to jump in and talk about a little bit about how energy debt can like accumulate before we even realize it. So I don't know if you all have like a personal experience or something that you all have been through where you can kind of share how that energy, when we're depleted, how that can really lead to problems.
Yeah, that is huge. Energy bankruptcy is a real thing, and I don't think we talk about that enough, just in a general sense. But I'll let Carissa start us off and get us going with that, and then I'll chime in because she's more of a pro of that than I am.
I don't know if I would say that. Um, but
Hmm.
but no, I definitely agree. It's not something that's talked about a lot. And obviously you need energy to be able to do things. And I think sometimes when you're just in the routine, whether you're starting a business, you're in a business, you're running a business, whatever the case may be, you're in that routine and sometimes you don't even notice how much energy is being depleted. Um, and that can look, you can kind of find out where that energy is being depleted in a variety of ways that can come through your finances and you can obviously see that your relationships personally, mentally, spiritually, physically. I feel like that can contribute to a lot of different areas. And I think it's huge to just kind of be aware of that because again, I don't think it's talked about a lot and a lot of people aren't aware that is a thing. And when you find yourself kind of in that no energy or low energy, figuring out what can kind of fuel you to get back to where you need to be before it's too late and you were already at such a burnout where you don't even know how to kind of pick back up. Um, so an example, I think Malachi and I, when we first got married, we were trying to, get all the things we needed, for our place to stay. We need this furniture, we need this for the guest room, we need, all the things. And I think it's a beautiful thing to try to like build a home together and build a house, but I think so much energy and things went into that some other things were neglected or even just like simple tasks or jobs because that was like the primary focus. And until it got to the point for me where I was just like, I don't care, we can live in a box, like I'm done with this, I don't want to decorate, I don't want to find anything else. I was just so tired and depleted, and didn't really keep refueling myself as I was doing the process, or my mindset was like, let's just get it all done at once so we don't have to worry about it and let's just focus on this and we'll get it done really quickly. When, a lot of times things are a process and you have to know how to be able to refuel yourself. And it's different for everyone, but knowing that to be able to continue to ultimately get to your end goal. So that's just a silly example of something, but you can definitely see how it plays out again in relationships and things, because even something as simple, or as silly as that, translates into everyday, again, personal or professional. So
Yeah, and you all have children, or you have a child too, so that that plays into a
Yeah.
whole nother aspect of unexplained gotta, sick days for the kids or unexplained time when your energy is going to be drained in different ways. So having, a
Yeah.
plan to, having that contingency plan, like, okay, well, if things change and I can't get what I needed to be done that day, when can I reschedule it? When can I, redo those things versus just letting it completely drop off, and giving up. Because sometimes, when you're just burning at both ends, doing it all, especially being a solo entrepreneur like I have, it's so easy to just get burnt out with it, especially when you don't feel aligned with what, you're doing. Like, especially marketing. For me, marketing has been the toughest part of my entrepreneurial journey because it's, I feel like it's playing this game of trying to play the social media game and figure out what the trends are and what's going on. And sometimes that just gets overwhelming, and it's like, okay, that's not really what I'm in line with. That's not who really I am or how I want to be. So really being able to have that time where you can check in with yourself and see where you're at, I think is important, because most entrepreneurs, they just want to push through it, get to the next thing. Like you were saying, just like hurry up and get it done so we can move on to the next thing. And oftentimes that push through, it then burns us out, or we need some time to recuperate if we do push through. If we got a big launch coming up or something, exciting new coming up, we try to push through that, and we realize that we need some time to recalibrate afterwards. How do you refresh that? How do you, pour back into you? But I love how you also mentioned, that it's that holistic approach, and, and how it can affect everything. Because that's, it's not, if you just focus on one area in life, you're going to be neglecting all the other areas of life. And so it's definitely that ebb
Yep.
and flow, and making sure you have some balancing to kind of maneuver between that. If you focus just on finances in your business, then you may be, affecting some relationships. You may be affecting your
Hmm.
health. You may be, affecting your mental state, especially when you don't feel like you're not hitting your quota or hitting your mark. That very much, I see a lot of people beat themselves up, when they don't hit that level that they wanted to be in. You got anything else on the topic, Malachi?
You know, they talk about time management, and when you become an entrepreneur, you start to understand after, if you make it past the 6 month, 8 month hurdle, right, and you're getting into a year, 2 years, 3 years, and beyond, it's less time management and more so energy management, because we all have just a certain level amount of energy that we can exhaust before we are really done. So they call it the spoon theory. We all have a level of spoons that we have of energy that we can give out. For some of us, maybe doing the dishes is 2 spoons, right? Or cutting the lawn, that could equal 3 spoons. Or having a conversation with maybe a certain client or family member or type of potential prospective client, that might be 5 spoons, right? So we
Mhm.
have to be very conscious about those spoons and how we're divvying out those spoons on a day-to-day basis so that we don't run out of spoons too quickly. So I've through entrepreneurship and also marriage, I really learned that I have to be very intentional about where my spoons are being used and with who my spoons are being used. Because if I don't, I'm not able to show up for my family, and then I'm not able to show up for my business partners and clients. And to be able to show up for all of them, that's what matters. Like at the end of the day, that's what each person is looking for. Your family is looking for you to show up, your business partners are looking for you to show up, and your clients. And it's to that point where you don't want to make an excuse. But at times it gets to that point where you start making excuses. So it changes the dynamic of saying, okay, I have to be very intentional about my energy. And that's all I'm going to focus on, so that no matter what happens, I'm always showing up.
And I think
Yeah.
too that when you talk about like energy management and activity management, like what activities are taking up your time, I think a lot of that, you hear the, oh, you need to balance this, you need to balance that. And there's no such thing as the perfect balance. And if someone has that figured out, let me know because I haven't met anyone. But I've heard the
Mm,
analogy before that I absolutely love called the glass ball theory. And it talks about, a lot of people juggle different things, whether it's if you're an entrepreneur, your business, if you have children, relationships, personal life, physical health, things like that. And some of the balls are made out of glass and some are made out of plastic. And you have to know which ones are made out of which because if you drop a glass ball, it shatters, obviously, and that takes a longer time to repair. But if you drop a plastic ball, it'll bounce back up and that's okay. You can get it back in when you're juggling things. So prioritizing and really labeling and being aware, hey, this thing that I'm doing here is considered a glass ball. I need to make sure I'm doing something every day to kind of nurture that and make sure it doesn't fall. Some of these other things may be plastic balls, and it's okay, if I go a few days without kind of nurturing that and protecting that because it'll come back up. But just knowing what is which to make sure you're not shattering some of the most important things while you're focusing on something that maybe not be as important.
yeah, I love that
Yeah.
analogy. That glass ball, like break, put glass back together. It's a lot to get it
Yes.
back together. And I love too what Malachi was saying about the spoons because, I work with a lot of people who have chronic disease and I do myself. And so if that is flared up and, my health is really impacted, that impacts my energy to be able to show up and do some of those different things. And just like that, also as a woman, in the different phases of my cycle, my energy changes. And I really didn't think about this until I really started learning about cycle syncing and understanding what is going on in my body at those different phases of my cycles. And if I'm trying to do like a big major launch while I'm getting ready to start my period, that is not going to go over as well. My energy just to show up and be present for other people is just not going to be as magnetic as when I am ovulating and I have more of that natural energy and I'm feeling more energized to do things. So I definitely think, like we talked about when we're talking about energy like finances and bankruptcy, it's important for us to track that, have like a check-in to
Oh yeah.
really access and audit where that is. And, for me, sometimes that's checking to know which phase of my cycle am I in, to check what can my energy can be like. I can commit to a little bit more during this time of my cycle, but maybe not as much during that. I need more self-care. I need more downtime. I need more time at home with my family to like recuperate versus being out networking as much. And budget, like you said, you know, evaluating where you can put that time. The same thing as budgeting. When we talking about finances, we're budgeting how much are we going to save for these particular things. We need to also look at how much energy do we need to have for these particular things. For me, getting on and recording a random video, like a scripted video that I have to actually like say something specific for, that would wear me out. And it would take me so many tries to get on and do that would be like, okay, the whole day is spent just trying to do that. But then if I get on and I'm just having a conversation with the friends or with you guys, like that lights me up and I can, jump and do that. So, it was really for me to kind of understand, how can I invest my time wisely where it energizes me more than depletes me,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and make sure that it's aligned with what I feel, and like you said, kind of figuring out those glass balls where those leaks are. If there are certain clients or things that really drain you and pull you down, you got to kind of think, okay, is this client worth that time to still continue that relationship? How can I set some more boundaries or some things to help protect that energy leak? And we're gonna talk about that moving forward another day. But I just definitely think recognizing that debt that you have, budgeting that is a big thing. And, the other big thing is having a plan, like you had mentioned, Krista, about having that bounce back. Like, how can I replenish that? Having that plan to help you prioritize how to get those energy returns are huge. It's the first step really towards your energy independence is having that plan in place. And I don't think that's talked about enough in the entrepreneurial world. It's more about set up your LLC, make sure you're, doing your accounting, make sure you got marketing, make sure you're, checkbox all these things. But what about your health? Because I mean, your health is huge cost. If your health goes down and it impacts you being able to show up in your business and be able to, especially when it's just you and you're the only one. I see a lot of medical providers who have started their own practices who have seen how much this really hurts them, especially if they don't have other services or things to offer or a team to help support them when they're having their lower time, someone else to kind of fill in. So, do you all have any other suggestions or things about, being aware of this burnout or how to kind of think about that energy, like profit first plan, like pay yourself first? How are you going to replenish your energy first?
Yeah. There's also something that I heard called the three buckets method, which I really liked, and try to implement. It's breaking your time and essentially your energy into three different buckets, which one is growth, one is maintenance, and one is more like connection and joy. And when you're talking about the growth, I think a lot of times that is different skills you're learning, personal development, stuff that makes the future you better, which can be amazing but can also be draining because you're working really hard on yourself. And then you have maintenance, which again, you're just maintaining what you have, whether it's work, errands, daily life, dinner, dishes, kids, cleaning, things like that. And then you have that joy and connection bucket, which is where I think the creativity kind of flows in. You allow yourself to have time to rest, to get those creative juices flowing, spending time with people you love, having fun. And when any one of those buckets is dry for too long, you're going to feel off, and that energy is going to feel off because you're not being able to spend time in each necessary bucket or category to be able to refuel yourself. And just like we talk about not managing time, it's not just managing your time, managing your energy, because energy is a resource. So I think for me personally, I have to schedule breaks and unplug just like I would in actual meetings, even if it's just daily tasks. It doesn't just have to be work. If I'm doing something, sometimes it's just movement, hydration, sunlight, just productive tools that can help me kind of regain my energy to be able to move in to the next task, and ask myself, which task am I feeling aligned with right now, and what is making me feel drained, and why is it making me feel drained? What actually matters to me right now, and then being able to focus on that.
Yeah, that's huge. I really appreciate you sharing that because when you really focus in those three bucket areas, it really allows you to maintain completely your energy levels, right? And it allows you to be pretty much running on all cylinders efficiently, right? It's just like a vehicle. If the cylinders aren't running efficiently together, whether it's a four-cylinder vehicle, six-cylinder vehicle, or whatever, then that engine is not going to run very well, and the transmission is probably going to go out. But no, I agree with that 100%. And then it's almost in a sense where you have to know when you are at your highest levels of energy. Like I know for me, I'm an early riser, so a lot of things for me, especially energy levels, happen early in the morning. But then at the same time, that's a great time for me to really pour into myself because you can't give to others what you don't have. So it's very vital
Hmm.
to pour into ourselves. And for me and our family dynamic, when I wake up, everyone else is asleep. So that works out for me to do any type of pouring into myself, whether that's spiritual, even physical, going to the gym and making sure that I'm staying fit. But staying fit, I'm not staying fit just for my physical body, I'm staying fit for my mental health. So that way I can have a little bit more clearance and feeling when it comes throughout the whole day. And then, I always check in at the half part of the day. On my calendar, I call it halftime because at halftime, I'm taking a break and I'm just, doesn't matter what's going on. I'm stepping away. I'm walking away from all rooms and I'm going to decompress. and I'm going to see where I'm at. Whether the first half was a great half or it may have not been the best half. But I know I got a second half of the day, and I'm going to make that the best. And the end of the day, I'm going to reassess how the whole day was and prepare for the next day. But if I break it up that way and I start the day off strong with pouring into my buckets, I have found that to be one of the most effective things. You have to pour into yourself. You can't expect others to pour into you. And the dynamic, not just from entrepreneurship, just people in general, a lot of individuals fail to do that. And I feel as though that's one of the biggest things that's hurting their energy levels and productivity levels long term.
Yeah, that's definitely the big piece of advice that I would have, like you said, paying yourself first, in your business. Just having your first 10 minutes of your day really sets the tone for the rest of your day. And it just, in some people, they may want it to be a little bit longer, but at least the first 10 minutes of your day, if you're woken up in a panic that you overslept, like when you're in school and you like overslept for your class and you're rushing to get to class you're going to be in that panic state like for the rest of the day, and you're not going to be as productive or be able to retain things. So those first 10 minutes of the day are huge. And there's been tons of scientific studies that have shown, that impacts your sleep, that impacts your mood, that impacts even your dopamine, the things that you crave to be able to give you energy throughout the day. If you start off your day scrolling on social media, then you're going to find yourself scrolling on social media randomly, like when you're going to the bathroom or some other times, because your brain is wired to do what you initially gave that initial dopamine hit to. So that beginning of the day to me is the most important piece to how you want your day to be. So making sure to really start off with something that pours into you, that gives you that happy hormone hit, that's not going to be taking you away from your goals and things that you really want.
100%. I keep telling Malachi I'm just ready to wake up at a beach in the Maldives every morning. I think that would just solve everything, but we're still working on it.
I know, my significant other wants to,
right?
Oh yeah, my significant other was like, "Oh, your day would just be so much better if we were in Hawaii." Just live there. Go for a morning swim, Oh yeah, versus waking up with a monsoon right now.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so definitely, it's important to make sure you're checking in with yourself. I love, Malachi, that you have that scheduled halftime. I put it on my calendar specifically for me to go outside and go for a walk during my lunch or have that time, because I feel like if I don't schedule those times, then I'm just going to like overlook it and I'm going to go on right on through what I'm doing and not pour into myself and be drained. I also have to schedule some time for family time, making sure I am checking in with my significant other or the rest of my family, making sure I do have some of that time. So I am nurturing those relationships.
Yeah.
Because the strain in those relationships can impact your business and life in general. So it's really making sure you sit down and kind of evaluate that. Like we said, kind of budgeting, tracking, just like we talked about, we don't want to go bankrupt in our energy because then that's going to create bankruptcy in our business as well. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think this is awesome. I think we've got a lot more to jump into. We've uncovered the true cost of burnout and why energy debt is just as dangerous as financial debt. And in our next session, we're going to talk about how to set strong boundaries to protect your energy like you protect your finances. So stay tuned until next time.